Hi, in this video, I just want to show how the authentication works in Power Apps Virtual Agent. Uh, this authentication feature was released like last week or the week back, and I had a lot of difficulties in trying to get this working properly for connecting to CDS. So I'll just in this video, I'll just show you how I actually managed to get it working. So what exactly is authentication and what exactly is Power App Agent? So Power Apps Virtual Agent is a citizen developer tool that helps you to build bots. So earlier you used to have bot framework, and then you need to actually know how to actually code a bot. But now with this Power Apps Virtual Agent, you'll be simply able to drag and drop controls like flows into the canvas, and then you'll be able to build a bot without writing any code. So if you go into the easiest way to get into Power Apps Virtual Agent is aka.ms and slash try PVA. I think it's easier to just remember this address, and then it will just jump into this Power Apps Virtual Agent. So you can sign up for a trial. Already have enabled that, and then once you go into this page, under manage, there is a section called authentication. So currently this authentication is not set up for me. So first step is to set the authentication. I want to, in this example, I want to actually write my bot needs to communicate with the CDS instance, and then it needs to retrieve some data, or I need to pass along the user credentials, things like that. So I need to set up the uh, details here in this page. So if you click this link here that says configure authentication, it just jumps into this docs page. This docs page, you have like what are the parameters, what are the values for these parameters, like you can read through this. But if you have never configured Azure AD before, this might be a bit confusing to like, because it doesn't tell you how to actually set it up on the Azure side. So in this example, I will show you how to actually first register your application in Azure. So head over to portal.azure.com. That's where, so this is the base URL, portal.azure.com. And then if you go into the home page, so it will be in this home page, Active Directory. You need to be in Active Directory, and then you want to go into app registration. So in app registration, I actually will first I will set it up so that I can test my app registration in a tool called Postman. So first I will set up the app registration. So you click on new registration. Okay. So I'll say PVA. And then you have three options here. Accounts in this organization directory. That's the default selected option. So I will go with this option because I don't want any external users to actually connect into my bot. I just want people only inside my same tenant. So if you look at the top right, my login ends with like dreaming in CRM dot on Microsoft.com. So I just want only those uh, only the users in this domain to actually sign into my bot. I don't want any external users to authenticate. So I will just leave it like this. Uh, and then next one, you need to configure the redirect URI. You can configure it later, but I would like to configure it in the the very beginning so that I don't forget it. So then I will just now jump into this tool called Postman. So what is actually Postman? Postman is a um, tool that will help you to send HTTP request into any arbitrary endpoint or web service or anything. So to download this tool, you have to go into getpostman.com. So after you download this tool, there are a couple of collections that I recommend you to download. They are quite helpful to kind of like, because otherwise you would have to manually key in the URL, and you need to know what parameters to pass. So one of that, so there are two collections that you need to download into Postman. All the instructions are on this GitHub repo. So one is for the Microsoft Graph API. This is the URL for downloading that collection. I'll also put it on the bottom of this video. And second one is actually the one for CDS. So you have two GitHub repos. One that will help you to send requests into the Graph API, and one is for CDS. So download these two collections. After you download the collection, you'll be able to use it in Postman. So I'll show you how it is set up for me at the moment. So you can see on the left hand side, I have two collections. So this is basically collections. So I have one for CDS and I have one for graph. So this is how it's set up. Okay, now let's jump back into setting up the app registration. So you need to enter the name of your app, and we already selected the default option, single tenant. And then now next step is actually to configure the redirect URL. Because we want to first test these operations with Postman, this is the redirect URL for Postman, getpostman.com/auth2/callback. Now you click register. Now it is going to create the application. After it creates the application, now you have to set up a certificates and secrets. So create a new client secret and name it, I don't know, give it any name. The name is not important, it's actual secret that is important. So copy this to the clipboard. And then if you go into API permissions, you can see by default it has set up one permission that is for Microsoft Graph, just the user.read permission. So now we will try to test this in Postman. So jump into open Postman, and now like I said, after you download the collections, you get these options on the left hand side, one for CDS and one for graph. So click on this ellipsis icon, and then you can use edit and then authorization, and now you can say get new access token. And in this get new access token, you need to put in the secret before you actually clear the clipboard. Just probably copy paste it first. Then you need to fill in all these details. So auth URL, what is auth URL? Let's jump back into this overview page on Azure. So whatever it's called, application client ID, that one we need to put it under client ID. Sorry, you need to, okay, let's copy this, paste it into client ID. And then we need the auth URL. So auth URL ends with authorize, access token URL ends with token. So we need to copy the auth URL. So auth URL, click on this endpoint, you get all these URLs. So this one ends with authorize, copy this authorize, put it on this authorize. Okay. Now we need to copy the token, copy the token value, and then paste it in here. Next one is scope. So for this is a V2 endpoint. So because it's got V2 and authorized, for V2 endpoints, we need to mention the scope. How do you get the scope name? So once again, you just jump into API permissions and click on these are all multiple. So under Microsoft Graph API, you can have many scopes. And when I click on this user.read scope, this is the scope name. So this is the URL for scope. So I just copy this and then try to I just paste it in here. Now let's try to request a token. So the grant type should be authorization code. This can be the name, the token name can be anything. So I have specified this as token. So now let's try to request a token. If I try to request a token, now I get a permissions requested. So it'll try to sign you in first because I already signed in. It's just prompting me for this permissions required. So this prompt is actually something that will is not required. So let's try to fix that first. So go back into this configure permissions, and then grant admin consent for dream so do this one, grant admin consent. So sign in again as an administrator, and then you'll get the same prompt, and then you accept it. Once you accept it, you are given admin consent. That means any user who is trying to use with this application ID, they are not going to be prompted. So now let's jump back again to Postman, and now I try say request token. So this time around, I don't get any prompt. I just simply get the token. So this is the token, and if you scroll down below, you can see all the scopes. So you have profile, OpenID, email, and user.read. You have four scopes. So you use this token, and the token name is actually token. So update. So now I jump into the collection here, and then on behalf of user, and then users, Um, I think get my profile. This is the one. Get my profile. So this is the me. Okay. So if you go into authorization, token, I can just say inherit from parent, and then I just send. So because we actually got the token from here, this top level ellipsis, you can reuse the token. So now I am getting a response. So this is good. So the graph API part works now. So now we need to get this set up for CDS. So how do you set it up for CDS? Just click add permission again under the API permissions and then dynamic CRM and then user impersonation, add permissions. Now we need to give the admin consent again. So to do this, you can just click on this admin consent. So now it says sign and read in user profile. It's still trying to, it's just still hanging on to the old graph permission. So what we need to do now is we need to revoke admin consent on the graph API and then now click add admin consent again and then sign in as administrator account. Now you get two permissions, access common data service and then graph API accept. So now we have both the permissions. So now let's try to get a token for CDS. So I go in again. So this time I'm actually choosing a different collection. That's a web API collection, CDS, authorization, get new access token. So this time maybe I'll just rename the token to CDS token. And under this scope, I need to actually put a different scope. So what is the scope name? So when you click on user impersonation, you get this scope name. So copy the scope name and then paste it in here. Now we need to make a change. This is the most important thing because otherwise you'll get an error. So okay, I'll first try to show this with the error. Okay, if you just copy paste this like how we did with Graph API and then request token, you will get a token back, right? You'll get a token back. And then the scope is saying admin.services. If you say use token, right, update. And if you go into this who am I sample on this, so if you go into functions, like, who am I sample, you get the who am I sample. So now if I try to choose the available tokens as CDS token, and then I send this request, I'm getting a HTTP 401. So I can't use this token, but this is actually, I got a token. Why can't I use it? Let's see. Okay, if I just go into edit again, this time we need to actually, when I say get new access token, you need to make a change here. Instead of saying admin.services.crm, you put in your base URL for your instance. So for me, it is naming in crm.crm6.dynamics.com/user impersonation. And I just use the CDS token again. I just say request token. And then I can remove the old token. So this time around, the scope is streaming CRM. So use token and then update. So now when I try to use the CDS token again and then send this, now it works. So I'm able to use this token on Postman. So if I want to use a if I want to get a token for graph, I actually use a different scope. So in this instance, if I just get a access token, so I need to change this to a graph token. This one I can't use if I can't reuse the token. So if I want to use graph API, I need to have a different scope, but everything else remains the same. But if I want to use CDS, I need to use this scope, and you need to change it for your instance. So now we have confirmed that this whole API or the application setup is correct in Postman. We have confirmed that. After we have confirmed, now we can go and set it up in um, Power Apps Virtual Agent. Okay, now let's jump back into PVA authentication section. So you go into aka.ms/try PVA, and then you can go into this authentication section. And if you click on this configuring authentication link, you'll go onto this docs page. And now it's about copy pasting. First thing, your application register redirect URL. So let's copy paste this redirect URL. So we just copy paste that, put it on. Uh, where is the redirect URL? Yes, that's the redirect URL should be set it up. We should set it up on the Azure AD application registration. So if we go into authentication, so earlier we had it as get postman. Now we have confirmed that it's all working. Let's change this URL into redirect URL. Just change this to the redirect. Just save this. Okay. So now we have done that. Now it's a matter of copy pasting everything else. So let's copy paste the things that are like anything that says common slash OAuth 2, like we need to change it with our tenant. So let's copy paste the ones that are not having any specific URL. Authorization URL query string template. Okay, I'm going to copy paste that into authorization URL query string template. And then next one is, and then token URL query string template, token URL query string template, question mark. So this one is question mark. I'm just copy pasting that. And then refresh token URL query string template is also question mark. Same thing. Uh, refresh body template. I'm just gonna copy paste this. Refresh body template. And then scope list delimiter. That's comma as per this one. Scope list delimiter comma. And then we need to copy the authorization URL. Okay, authorization URL ends with authorize. So let's go back into our Azure, go into overview, go into endpoints, authorization. Just copy this first one, authorize endpoint. Then copy it into authorization URL. And then you have token URL. Jump back into Azure again. The second one is token URL. Copy this and copy paste it here. And then we have the token body template. Let's see, token body template. Copy paste this whole thing, token body template. Okay, done. And then refresh URL query string template. Refresh URL query string template. It says here it's a question mark. Okay, refresh URL query string template is a question mark. So refresh URL template. So this one is token. So what I can do is the same one. So this one says token. So I just copy paste this token URL template. Token URL template and refresh URL template are exactly same. So refresh URL template also ends with token, and then token URL template also ends with token. So we just copy paste what we pasted for token URL template into refresh URL template. And then now we need to put a client ID and client secret. Client ID will be, I think client ID is this one, application ID, copy this, okay. And then client secret. Let's jump back into secrets. So now it's not, it's hidden now. So that's why we want to configure this in Postman first, because otherwise you would have to delete and recreate it. Now just jump back into Postman where it says click edit and then authorization, and you say get new access token. In here we had already pasted it, so let's copy paste it from there. And now paste it into client secret. And now the scope, like I said, the scope is something that will be there on API permissions. For in this scenario, I want to configure for CDS. I click on the user impersonation. I copy this, and then I need to make a slight change. I need to change this URL from admin.services.crm.dynamics.com into my tenant's base URL. So it's dreaming in crm.crm6.dynamics.com/user impersonation. So everything is set it up. Give a name for this connection, CDS. So now I can save. I save this connection. Hopefully everything should be all right. After we save this connection, we can use the login card on a topic. So let's wait for the connection to finish. Okay, the connection has saved now. So we jump into topics. So I just want to, I'm not going to detail on what topics are, what entities are. That's probably, there is already documentation around it. You can refer this. So I go into a topic. So I have created a new topic called solutions. So on this, I go into the authoring canvas. In this authoring canvas, we can now drop in a, because we have set up the authentication, we'll be able to drop in a login card. So click on this plus icon and then call an action. After you click call an action, you should be able to get a Uh, so now we authenticate. So once you authenticate, it says you're logged in. Okay. Just to be sure that we have the token, let's try to put in show a message. So maybe I just want to show the token, just to show the auth token. Okay, I just save this. So now I can click on this test your bot. Now I need to type the trigger phrases. The trigger phrase on this topic is list. Okay, once this bot loads, okay, now I type in list. Now it's jumping onto this topic. Now it should be prompting me with a sign-in card because I have entered a sign-in card. Okay, now it's in this topic. Solution list. Now it's prompting me for authenticate. Now I click login. Now it's opening a new pop-up. Okay, now it says I I need to copy paste this token into this window. So once I have copy pasted this token into the window, now it is the next step where it says logged in. Now I'm just also dumping out the auth token just for confirmation. So it's all working now. So what can I do with this auth token? Now the next step on this process is to actually call a flow. So what I have done is I have built a flow like this. So when a HTTP request is received, and then I actually grab a property on the HTTP called token, and then I'm going to do who am I request, because one of the first thing that you might want to do is when the user is logged in, maybe you want to greet them with their full name. So I just hard coded my base URL in here. You could probably change it to parameterize this, but I just to kind of prove that I can call a CDS using an authorization token. I have done this. So in the advanced option, I put the bearer token. So this token is actually what we get from the HTTP request, and then we can we can basically call that and then pass a response. And I also have done like a couple of CDS actions. These CDS actions will be using authentication that is actually at create time. We are not actually grabbing the credentials or secret or anything at runtime. When this flow runs, these two actions get a record and cases are already set up. They won't be using the current user who is in PVA. His or her credentials won't be used on these two actions. This will be using a predefined connection. But what I am trying to do in this example is when the user logs in, I know the user's ID. So I'll just try to find the user's full name, and then I'll also try to find the user's number of cases for the user, and then I'll actually send back the response with the user's full name and the number of cases they have. So when you actually send a response back, you need to actually construct the JSON at runtime. You can't use like a variable. You can't use an object variable, or you can't, for example, you can't pass through this whatever you got from the cases straight into the response, because that won't work in PVA. The flow will work, but you can't see the flow in PVA because at the moment, if the flow has to show up with the output parameter, you need to manually construct the JSON. That is a limitation at the moment. So you have to, for me, I'll just construct the JSON like this. And also one important thing is to also have the schema because without the schema, the Power Apps virtual agent won't know what exactly is the output return. So you need to do both. Two things most important is, one, you need to manually construct the JSON object on the response, and two, you need to have the schema on the response. So I have set up this flow. So once I have set up this flow, now I can add this flow into the Power Apps virtual agent. So I can delete this authentication token message. Now click add an action. I'm going to add this flow into the uh, designer canvas. So raw CDS HTTP, and I need to pass. So this now it's already recognized that this particular flow has got an input parameter called token. I need to pass a value to the token. So I pass the auth token. Now, next one, I can just show a message to the user. I just say welcome, and then I can just say, so it's already like, I can click on this. It already knows that the flow returns an output called user. So I'd say welcome user, you have, you have, and then I just use the number of cases, and then I just save this. So once I save this, I need to reset my flow. Now reset the bot like testing area here. So it's done. I just in case I just want to reset this just so that it's not hanging on to the old uh, uh, definition. So let's wait for this to save. So it's saved. Now once again I type list. Okay, solution list. It's just jump into solution list. I click login. Same thing. Copy paste this token. Copy paste this token now. So these are the completed check marks, right? So anything completed. Now it says logged in. Now it's trying to call the action. It's already come back. It's very fast. So it says welcome Nata, you have 0 cases. So let's jump back into the flow. So if you jump back into the flow, so now you can see 16 seconds ago there was a execution. So it did run successfully. So it called the raw HTTP, not the CDS action. You just call the you have to know what how exactly is the URL, because at the moment it is not we can't really pass any sort of we can't do any sort of impersonation on the native in CDS in flow on the CDS current connector. You have to actually choose an authentication or a credentials at design time. You can't really say, I want to pass through the authentication. So in this scenario, I'm simply passing through. I'm passing through the bearer token and I'm actually impersonating the user. So that's how this one works. But that's a raw HTTP. But these two actions are the CDS actions. They don't really support you passing a credential at runtime. You need to when you're designing the flow, you need to decide who is going to be the user, who is going to be connecting to CDS. So that is the difference between these two actions. So with the raw HTTP, you have the capability to pass through the credentials as a form of the bearer token, and with the CDS actions, you can't do that. So I have done both in this instance. I just want to my POC. I just want to simply print out the current user's name. I use the who am I request to actually do that, and then I want to query the user record. Uh, so I actually do a whom I get an ID, and using that system user ID, I will actually query the system user entity, and I will actually get the user's details, and then I'll also use the filters to actually get the number of cases pending against that user. So once I do that, I can just dump it into a response. So now the flow is actually working. So it's actually working in using raw HTTP, pass through the credentials that you received from the PVA login, action, and also you can actually add other things into that. So now there is a limitation. The limitation at the moment is uh, when you have multiple scopes. For example, if you want to call graph as well as CDS dynamics at the same time, you can't do that using PVA, because the scopes are it's not a PVA based specific thing, because it's when it comes to Azure AD, these are two different resources. So when you actually have to obtain a token, you need to obtain two times. So when you actually obtain a token for CDS, you actually use a different URL. So in this scenario, it is dynamics.com, it will be prefixed with your instance name. And then if you actually grab a token for graph, you use a different resource. So it's graph.microsoft.com. So it's not possible to actually uh, obtain a token for two different resources in the same call. You can just only obtain it for the, so if you want to obtain a token for Microsoft Graph but with multiple scopes, so I have a scope called user.read, I have a scope called email. I can do that because it's the same resource, but I can't do that for uh, Graph as well as uh, uh, CDS at the exact same time. So what happened when you try to specify multiple scopes? So I've just used this tool called Fiddler, and I just send uh, this authorization code request with multiple resources. So I have like graph.microsoft.com as well as I have the CDS one. So I have both the resources. When I try to send a request like that, it gives me an error. Says that provided value for input parameter scope is not valid because it contains more than one resource. So at the moment, we can't use it for both graph as well as CDS. You need to choose which one you're going to use. Like, you can have multiple scopes on the same resource. So I can have like graph Microsoft, I have email, I can have users details, or I can just have the CDS. So that is the limitation I found at the moment. So yeah, hopefully I think this video is helpful for you to set up the authentication in PVA and use that token, the bearer token, to actually call either Graph or CDS and get the response back. So yeah, if you have any feedback, yeah, just you can leave it on my blog, dreamingincrm.com, or you can leave it on this video. Thank you.